Always fun, crazy. It's painful, but it's wonderful. What is the name?
It's Royce Unchained.
So, Patrick, what was that we watched on Sunday?
You know, another time involving a Kansas City sports team. I was thinking 1985 when the Royals were in the World Series, and the 86 was it 85 or 86? 85 or 85.
85.
And there was Denkinger missed the call on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Game 6 that the Cardinals would have won the World Series. And then the next day, Whitey and Joaquin Andahar, his starting pitcher, both got thrown out in the first inning, and Kansas City beat them like 14-2 or something. And Joaquin Andahar's quote after that game was, "You never know." But he made one word about it. You never know. You know, when talking about just about everything that occurred here. You just never know. And every time I see a game like last night, I think, you never know. That's the great thing about sports.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen until it doesn't. Now, we didn't know if the Eagles were going to win or the Chiefs were going to win, but we figured it'd be close, right? Touchdown, Kansas City to have their usual late chance to win it.
Yep.
God almighty. The Vikings were a machine versus the Rams compared to the Chiefs last night. That's one of the worst performances I've ever seen. Wasn't there a stat at the end of the third quarter or something that they'd had 38 yards, that they were going in for another touchdown, Philadelphia, and at that point there were 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, and the Chiefs had 38 yards or something. That's
probably
like that.
right.
It was unbelievable when you consider the losses. And you know who else we owe an apology to? I mentioned this earlier today. Ed Donatel. We ended up bad-mouthing Ed Donatel's defense. They played too soft, right? Who was his mentor? Vic Fangio, right? Vic Fangio. He was just trying to do what Vic did. And it's not our fault. It's not Ed's fault that we couldn't put any pressure on the quarterback and Daniel Jones looked like a superstar. So I think we all owe an apology to Ed Donatel. Ed Donatel, where'd he get this defense? What a terrible defense. Well, he got it to the guy from the guy who just humiliated the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl. That's where he got that defense.
Should have gone and gotten Vic. That's the moral of the story.
Well, or maybe that defensive line. My God. The first play of the game, the first Kansas City play, Sweet got the Sweat or whatever it is. He was on top of Mahomes before Mahomes turned around in the pocket. It was a full sprint to him right off the bat. The guy never laid a glove on him. It was incredible, and it never stopped. Not one. They only ran 44 plays. Is that right? The Chiefs only ran 44 plays.
I don't know, but it's probably true. Yeah.
And they never blitzed once.
Never blitzed. How about that?
An extra man. 4-man rush with that kind of pressure was just. It had to. It was something the Chiefs couldn't prepare. It's hard to prepare for not being able to block, isn't it?
It's hard to prepare to get your ass kicked, which is what happened, literally.
Yeah, it was beyond, and it's they gave him those 2 consolation touchdowns. It really does. It should stand in Super Bowl history as a much bigger slaughter than the final score indicates. That's for sure. Because 40-6 was legitimate score of that game.
Yes.
It was pretty amazing. The all-timer I ever covered, I believe, was the Denver and out in San Diego, Denver and Washington out in San Diego when Denver led 14-0, didn't they? And then Washington scored 35 in the second quarter.
Okay.
Yeah. And that
well, there used to be blowouts all the time. That's the weird thing.
Yes, right. Yeah, there's been a lot of good Super Bowls lately, but there used to be. You used to say typical Super Bowl, but even by Super Bowl blowout fashion, This was amazing. This was incredible. Andy looked perplexed over there on the side. He had nothing to offer, Patrick, did he?
And Patrick looked, I mean, I've never seen him look like that. Not all his fault, but I've never seen him look like that.
No, he was in a panic almost from the start, and it was I didn't see a good photo of him on the sideline, but I would like to of him with the kind of that, there's 10 minutes to go, and he's sitting there, and he's kind of got that smirk on his face, like, where did this come from? It was just incredible. I wonder? I hope America had the good taste to turn it off in the fourth quarter. Did the ratings sink? Do we know that?
I haven't seen them yet.
Well, obviously the people who were the anti-Chiefs people were having fun and stuck in there with. But somebody, I got to admit, I was in and out the second half. I was watching other stuff too. It was not. I don't. The combination of having to listen to Tom Brady's cliches and a complete blowout game was just not appealing to me.
And the new scoreboard as well. I thought Fox had a terrible day. I didn't like the new scoreboard.
Oh, really?
The bigger blocks, the block letters.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, Brady was
it's hard to put a smile on that game in any way for Fox. And I don't watch the ads. I saw a couple of them by accident, but you're looking at this stuff and said, Duncan's doing an ad or something.
Yeah.
$8 million? Is this going to give you $8 million worth of business? I can't believe it. It does, but I don't know. Does it? There's some companies that are in desperate straits that were ponying up the $8 million.
I know.
It's
and the mainstream and a lot of the mainstream is now gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It used to be now it's like tech and things like that.
Websites and stuff like that.
Which has been for a few years.
Well, anyway, it was a monumental disappointment. I got to start listening to my son Chris. I had lunch with him Thursday, and he said, "What do you like?" I said, Kansas City by a little bit. He said, "No, Philadelphia's a way better team." He's when you start playing fantasy football at age 9, you should probably listen to a guy, something like that. So, anyway, it was quite the beating, Judd.
How far though, when you watch that game from the Eagles' perspective, especially with their offensive and defensive lines, how far are the Vikings though from that? Because they don't stack up at all when it comes to those two things.
When they put pressure on, it was bringing guys. That was the exotic blitzes were Flory's calling card, and he made Grenard and Van Ginkel look like I shouldn't call him Van Winkle. He was Van Ginkel. Made him look fantastic this year, but by giving them a lot of help. This is almost like Fangio coming to Sirianni and saying, we're going to just start off playing straight up and see if we can get any pressure on them, and then we'll, if we have to, we'll send somebody once in a while. And they never had to the whole game. It was amazing. It was just I guess the one little instant that you thought, well, maybe they can get something going and get within a couple of touchdowns, and then Hopkins had that drop. They got to, in addition to getting somebody that can block, they got to get Patrick somebody that can catch again, too, don't you think? They're receivers. I mean, poor old Travis, it's done, Go ahead and go get married, Travis, and give it up because he can barely waddle more than 8-9 yards down the field, and he was, what he threw. I don't think he really had a drop though. People give a drop, but Mahomes that one he threw to him short that was almost ankle high, and I don't know. He just couldn't get open. It was just amazing ass kicking. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So who did the Purple Daily crew? Who were they picking? Did you guys all pick?
Kansas City? Yeah, I wasn't gonna. I was not going to go against Patrick Mahomes because I assumed it would be a close game, and he usually wins those. I would have never guessed that Philadelphia would come out and boat race them.
No, and but it only took about 10 minutes to say, we were wrong about this one.
Yeah.
They are physically way better than Kansas City, and you could see that anything that Andy suggested was didn't have a chance to work. Now I will say that shouldn't have been a touchdown by Cooper DeJean because I think he called for a signal for a fair catch before he caught that one. Didn't
I
he?
saw your immediate troll. I thought about that. I didn't put it out there, but I thought about that.
I thought he went like this before he caught it.
How'd the Gopher holders take that bit of a troll?
I don't know if that one made it to Gopher hole or not. But some people got a chuckle out of it. So that's something. That's something you got to. Oh God, he's good, isn't he? Woof. And he. They had about 3 rookies on that defense. Mm-hmm. Some new guys that they brought
Free agent
in.
linebacker who made a pick.
Do fans ever feel ridiculous like Philly fans? Probably not, because they are ridiculous. But they wanted this guy fired last year, Sirianni, right? And then they were 2-2 this year, and it was horrible. And even when they started winning, they weren't winning properly. I wonder if they feel. I mean, this is compared to the team that beat New England here. This is a machine, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. And Kansas City's got to look back and say the whole defensive plan to stop Barkley. Maybe we should have tried to balance out our defensive emphasis a little bit. I suppose they figure, if you don't stop Barkley, you're going to get beat. But it would have been. It would have been less bloody if they hadn't spent all their time worrying about Barkley.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, the Philadelphia defense was so damn good. I don't know. It mattered.
No, I don't think it did. But here's what, and they gave us a couple of aerial shots of this. When Hurts ran out of the pocket, where in God's name was everybody? They were 25 yards down the field
in coverage.
There was no middle, nobody in the middle to try to chase him to the sideline or something. It was those times he ran out of the pocket. It was 20 yards of open field before he ran into anybody. It was Kansas City's got to sit down and say, They were 13-0, but it was probably the luckiest 13-0 of all time. They 11 one-score games or something. So
12.
No, I think
right?
12 eventually. Early when they were 13-0, I think they had 11 of them. So.
Okay.
Buffalo maybe should feel pretty good about getting beat in the conference game because they'd be 0-5 in Super Bowls. They would pass us for the worst record because they would not have beaten that team.
No, probably not. No.
No.
Did I see that you went to go for basketball game on Saturday again?
Yeah, I was there. It was utter and complete mismatch. Although first 2 minutes we looked pretty good. We made our first 3 threes. We had 9-2. The crowd wasn't bad. They had about 10, maybe a little over 10. It was pretty good. And but Illinois has been a disappointment. It's pretty much a whole new team from last year, but it's big hotshot recruits and international players from Europe, and they got a lot of white guys that you don't associate that much with great Illinois basketball, but they are athletes, and it turned into a absolute slaughter. They maybe can't. Their rebounding was frightful. They never got any rebounds. It was, I was surprised that Garcia plays away from the basket, and big Frank Mitchell, he's not that tall, but he's a big guy. He didn't play much. He's the only other guy that can get a rebound, for God's sakes. It was awful, and I think it pretty much sealed our guy's fate. But I don't know what they're going to go do to get this. This right now is How many worse jobs in an 18-team Big Ten? 2 or 3? Maybe?
Woo.
Not even that?
I don't know if it's that right now.
No, because Northwestern redid their arena, right?
Yep.
I know it could be Nebraska's got a nice enough arena and
facilities.
They have facilities. They're just
Yep.
Traditionally terrible in basketball. I don't know who they are. I don't know what job would be worse than this one, because it's not like football where Rutgers is worse and Maryland's worse and some of these. Penn State might be worse.
Is Washington
right? Not the
up
facilities. There? Well, Washington though was good last year.
Okay.
They were.
Yeah,
they hired. They weren't. They hired a new coach. They fired their old coach, but they were good a couple of years ago. They traditionally haven't been as rotten as us, but this could be. That could be one team that this year they are for sure as bad as even though they beat the Gophers here, but they're bad. But I mean, to me, there's probably not a worse job in the Big Ten. Who are you going to hire?
That's
who's
what
going to come in
keep
here?
Saying.
Where are you going to go? I don't know where you're going to go. Your best bet is to hire some 35-year-old from Division II who's an absolute dynamo and give him a shot. Huh? Nico Medved, I brought him up in my column. He's a name that you heard a couple of years ago. Well, Nico just lost by 22 to Richard Pitino, so maybe we can bring. How about bringing Richard back saying we're sorry, Richard. Richard would say, "Go to hell! I got a better job down here. I got a full arena. I can get any transfer that we don't care where they came from. We're going to let them in, so he can." He's 12-1 in the Mountain West, which isn't a lot worse conference than the Big Ten, really.
But
Big
you're
Ten
right.
Women,
that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going to go get a coach. I don't know. Because Brian Dutcher would have been the choice 4 years ago if Coyle had been able to make his own decision, right? But Dutcher had his team in the tournament and couldn't get in for an interview and blah, blah, blah. But Dutch is now 65 years old. The NIL has come along.
Right.
He's losing players just like everybody else is out in
Correct.
San Diego State. He's not moving. He does not want to. He does not want to come and dig himself. You got to come and dig yourself out of a 17th place hole, Judd.
And where's the cash influx for the players going to come from? That's my question.
Well, we found out there wasn't one because he's at year 3. He's building something. Year 4, none of them are here. So
yes,
when you lose Elijah Hawkins, a 5th-year point guard, when he supposedly gets hundreds of thousands of dollars to play 1 year, you're just they don't have a big pocketed basketball guy. I think they got some guys with an interest in football who will kick in, but not. And
you wrote again about the building.
The building, get rid of the damn thing. How much do you think it cost to maintain that place a year? Keep it from falling down. You gotta be spending $3 million a year to heat it, and don't you? You got to be spending millions to heat that damn thing and keep it from falling down on itself. And you got the big problem is how do you service wrestling and volleyball and women's basketball? Because I think that's my plan is, and it's not original, is when we get a new Target Center, have the basketball team play, the Gophers play there too. Why not? It's, Louisville's got the Yum Center. When they weren't terrible like they were the last couple of years, students come to the games. They it's not like you got this immobile group of students. It's not like you got 40,000 people living on campus who can't go 4 miles to watch a basketball game if they want to, for goodness sakes.
And then what? Build a boutique for wrestling?
Yeah, you would have to do that.
Volleyball?
You'd have to build a 5,000 one, but the women's team would have to be in the smaller one too. For maybe if you get a big game in town, you could play it there. I don't know, but to me, it's to have, because we're going to get. We haven't gotten we're doing this at noon. We haven't gotten a verdict on the arbitration yet, but no matter who wins, I think if A-Rod and Laurie win, we're gonna get the stadium demand, the arena demand in about 10 minutes. But with Glenn, we're gonna get it in a couple of years too. Target Center's not very good. By
no,
NBA
oh God,
standards.
no. You're talking about places to blow up?
Yeah. Yeah, and how do they get rid of that, by the way? Let's say they build a new one down there at the farmer's market behind Target Field.
Yep.
Where they should have it is where that damn garbage burner is. They could be adjacent to them, right? They could build it on that site. But then how many millions does it cost to get rid of the garbage burner? And then you got to find somebody. Then you got to find someplace in the suburbs which will accept the garbage burner. So that probably is not doable. But hopefully, when they get a new Target Center, it's built in Minneapolis. Because if you get that big vacancy in Minneapolis downtown, oof, that would be bad.
That's the issue. That's exactly it.
And I can see, I imagine them saying, if Laurie and A-Rod get it, I imagine talks with the Wilfs to have it out in Egan, and that would be a disaster, wouldn't it? Wow.
It would be, but that's what I could see.
I
could see that.
like it. Yeah. Oh, I could do. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for downtown, absolute disaster.
Yeah, we got enough issues down there. So anyway, it would certainly be bad for the sports bar that we put in down on Hennepin and 6th, wouldn't it? What's the name of that joint again? What's the name of that?
Tom's Watch Bar?
Tom's Watch Bar would be hurting a little bit. I don't. You know what? The biggest problem, though, don't you think, with like Williams Arena and places like that, is just everything's on TV, and you go to a Gopher game, and it's a pain in the butt. You got to there's parking across the street for a few people is there's a small ramp there, but every other place, dead of winter, the other night the wind was blowing 30 miles an hour and you got to walk, from various places. You got to pay. The parking's only 12. It was a little high. It was 15 last year. They're trying to help, but you're paying $12 and you're walking across campus and you're going into this uncomfortable place to watch a bad basketball. And people talk about this elevated floor like it's something to be admired, like really. The responses to my column, I read some of them were, we got to keep the elevated floor. Oh, really? Okay.
Is there a competitive advantage right now?
I know. It's just the tradition. The tradition is gone. It's gone.
I just don't. You have nothing that's going to get you players. That's your problem. The building, you have no money.
No, you don't. It's. I tell you, the team that made the great hire. The college that made the great hire is Iowa State. That TJ, whatever his name is. He used to be
Nevada.
In South Dakota State, I think. And then he went to UNLV for 1 year, and Iowa State brought him in. That guy can coach, and he can get players. And, they're whatever his name is, TJ, whatever it is. And that's a great hire. But if you get a guy like that, you kind of luck into him, right? That it's sometimes you get the right guy, but maybe we should go all in and get the guy that LSU fired, who's now coaching a second-rate program down in the South. What was the guy's name? That he had a few violations.
The Cyclones coach is T.J. Otzelberger.
Yeah, right. The guy that got fired at LSU, Willie, what was his name?
I have to look.
About 3 years ago, and then he got fired for recruiting violations. There are no such thing as recruiting violations anymore.
Nope.
Don't.
The Hoosier fans are mad because they're now mad at the fact that, and this is hilarious, Kelvin Sampson was fired like 10 years ago for the phone violation.
Yes,
He had like placed an improper call at the wrong time, and he was, now you wouldn't even get a slap on the wrist.
And plus, they were not that excited about Calvin, and turns out he's one of the best coaches in the country, So he's winning at Houston. If I was Calvin, I'd stay right where I am, though.
Oh, yeah.
Indiana's got, who do they got, by the way? They got NIL money for football, and now they got huge NIL money for basketball. I wonder who the big pocket guys
Will
are
Wade
for them.
is the guy you're thinking
Will
of.
Wade is the guy. I want Will Wade. He's at some McNeese State or some damn thing. He's someplace like that. And he's a bit shifty, but what the hell? He might win. But
if you come here and see the lack of booster support, I don't know why you take this job.
No, I don't either.
So
I don't either. You got to, the money is. They are now. I heard that Garcia was making $350, right, to come stay for 1 year, and then I think it was Mackey told me that he's making $450 to stay here for 1 year. So was that the way to go? I got a new chair here in the studio that's not exactly comfortable.
Well, we've moved.
They've moved us to a B squad chair.
We've moved to a junior varsity studio for a while.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think we could end up doing this thing on the phone in the future. So that could be the way.
Might
to go.
be more comfortable at your kitchen table.
Yes, that's true. Anyway, it's. The guy I'm feeling sorry for today, though, after everything, I mean, Ben, everybody went through the game, blah, blah, blah. The guy I'm feeling sorry for is my longtime colleague, Joe Suchere, whose wife, the great Jennifer, because of her grandkids, became a big fan of the Chiefs.
Oh, no.
And Taylor Swift.
Oh, no.
And she's got Chief gear now. She wears and watches the games, and she had to endure the trumpeter getting cheered wildly and Taylor getting booed by the crowd in the Superdome, and then that complete rear end kicking. So it had to be a long day for the old mayor watching the Super Bowl.
Taylor was booed loudly.
Loudly. Yes. Now, and I don't think those were all Eagles fans, were they? What was it? I don't know.
Well, it was a ton of them.
Trump, and a lot of them Trump fans, too. But Trump got cheered wildly, right? What this just proves is that the crowds for sporting events are largely Caucasian and money and have money, right?
Well,
and
at the Super Bowl, yes.
If you're going to the Super Bowl, you got to have money, right? Well, hell, if you're going to a Viking game, you got to have money.
Although you bring up a point, so because the Chiefs were going for 3 consecutive titles, a ton of people were anti-Chiefs, right? Yes. Do you realize the Eagles won the Super Bowl? The biggest bunch of jackass fans of any NFL team, and they're bad across the board, but they are the biggest bunch of jackass. I wanted the Chiefs to win. I would far rather see the Chiefs get 3 consecutively than Philadelphia fans who are nothing but a bunch of you-know-what ingrates.
Yeah, and just ask Nick Sirianni. They want to run him out of town, as I said.
He's as obnoxious as they are, Pat.
They are... I'll tell you though, they are the worst. Although now I've only been to the new stadium a couple of times, and I'm sure they're still bad, but I don't think they're as bad as they were when they were at the Vet. The Vet was the Vet had jail downstairs. They had they could arrest people and book them downstairs in the basement of the Vet. That was the blue-collar, drunken, profane mob of all time. Them and the Bev, as we said, if it would have been the Bills and the Eagles, God bless Bourbon Street. Unbelievable. So.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You know what? They're probably not as bad as they were at the vet, but they're really bad. You still got beer cans being hurled across the parking lot.
Oh, and we've had the videos of people yelling, Eagles fans yelling and getting fired from their jobs, which I love them. I love the guy on the video yelling profanities at this woman for no reason and ends up costing him his job.
And it was a setup. The boyfriend went into there with his gal with the purpose of getting something like that to get exposure. So the whole thing. So the moron fan bought into it, did it, got exposed completely, and then to your point, got fired.
Yeah. Well,
I think it was a setup.
Somebody pulled. Although anything you read on the internet right now, you can't really believe what you see anyway. So it's there's a lot of bad information there right now that I got suckered into one a week ago or so. I can't remember what it was. What was it?
Off of what, Twitter or something?
Yeah, it was a tweet, and it was made it look like it was a factual thing. You almost anything that sounds absurd is probably true because there's a lot of absurdities out there. But if it comes off as absurd, you should maybe try to take a look at it and see if it might be nonsense. I don't know.
But then you get the Doncic trade on a Saturday night and think, okay, somebody's drunk and this is a fake account, and it turns out to be true. And then AD in his first game with the Mavericks gets hurt, and they don't know when he's coming back. So
that's the woe of a 30-year-old NBA player is can pull something, and it's not good for the Mavs. But it is funny how frontal the Mavs were and leaking out the information. I mean, it's not frontal, but leaking out the information how sick they were of Luka, right? Not being in shape and not playing any defense, and but they're gonna pay for this because without Davis, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, and then they're really going to get some heat.
Which helps the Timberwolves.
Yes, Wolves. So I'm looking at this week. I smell 0-3. The next three.
What's Milwaukee on Wednesday, Oklahoma City here on Thursday?
Yeah, they got no chance to win that one. And Milwaukee is down there, right? And then Oklahoma City.
I think Milwaukee's here. I think it's back-to-back.
Well, then they could beat Milwaukee. They could beat Milwaukee here. Okay. And then Oklahoma City, and then road game at someplace. Tough week anyway. Tough week. I don't know. That was a pretty good win the other night when Edwards took the night off and they came back. And Jaden McDaniel, the most hopeful sign with them is Jaden McDaniels, don't you think? The last 2 weeks,
he's been marvelous.
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
great.
Scoring points and actually involving himself. He drove me crazy for months at a time, just sitting down in the corner, not getting any rebounds, and all of a sudden he's you're getting your money's worth from him.
So their schedule is tonight on Monday night they're at Cleveland, Wednesday home to the Bucks, Thursday home to the Thunder, Friday at Houston, and then is this right? Then Sunday they've got OKC back here for a back-to-back, and then they go there next Monday. How about that?
So they got OKC 3 of the next 6 games.
Yeah, and they've got OKC Thursday at Target Center and Sunday at Target Center.
Ooh.
What schedule is that?
I don't know. It's idiotic. A lot of this gets tied in with that stupid mid-season the early season tournament, right? So they
sometimes
change schedules, and then you end up playing teams that you weren't supposed to play that often, and then they move other games. I don't know. Plus, see, I saw the other thing. The poor sports writers in town, I think they moved 2 games to 8:30, which means 8:50 too. They just.
Oh yeah.
they just send out a notice that they're moving them to 850, and you're out of luck. Boy, that Oklahoma City, they've lost 9 games, I think.
They're incredible.
40 something to 9.
Incredible. The Paul George trade is going to be one of the greatest trades of all time, right?
Oh, yeah.
SGA came back from the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken, in that trade.
Oh, is that right? Wow. And and now Paul George is in Philly, where they're not going to make the. I heard that Philly was on yesterday. I think that was Hubie's last game yesterday, right?
It was against the Bucks. Yep, in Milwaukee.
Against the Bucks, and he basically was saying, well, Paul George doesn't play much, and Embiid is hurt all the time, and they're what I never could figure out with that league giving these big contracts to 35-year-old guys like Paul George who get hurt all the time. It's just idiotic.
So in July of 2019, the Thunder traded George to the Clippers for SGA, 5 first-round picks, and the right to swap 2 other first-round picks and Gallinari as well. How about that?
Oklahoma City is just. They decided to get real bad after they lost everybody and put this thing back together, and it's a machine. But how do you think the commissioner's office is feeling with the possibility of an Oklahoma City-Cleveland final series?
You think those ratings might suffer a little more?
2 markets like that, man alive. I was just thinking, though, Judd, my God, the baseball... The World Series. Now, last year was a little better because you had L.A. and New York. But you're getting, what? You're getting a 11 or 12 share, right? On a good night, the World Series.
Yeah,
you're
not much.
11 or 12, 10 or 11. And you're getting, what, 20 million, Mike? 18 million? These people got 125 million people watching the Super Bowl, not counting the other 50 countries that the thing is being watched in. It's amazing how all the other leagues they're just the poor stepchildren to this to the NFL right now.
But you had a great point. I think it was last week, and I saw after you said it, I saw a story about this, and it's this. So football dominates because the games, people watch the games. There's a ton of speculation about players, right? But your basketball point, I think, is spot on. I read something from a guy who said, I haven't watched an NBA game start to finish all season, but I can't get enough of the trade shows.
Yeah, right.
So I love all of the stuff that goes around it. I don't even care that much to actually sit down and consume entire games, which is what you said, which is where baseball's got none of that.
No, they don't.
0.
They have not figured it out. Trading, they cannot get their teams because of the players union and everything and the agents to say, okay, we have a 10-day signing period, right, for free agents. The trade deadline starts. The trade deadline starts here on January 2nd, and you got to have everything done by January 17th. That's all you got. And, you don't get the, this trade's going to be made in 7 days or something like that. It's they just don't have any of it.
Right. And Pete Alonso goes crawling back to the Mets. It's just pathetic.
And they let him trade from, the day after before the World Series to ever. There's no until now. It's July 1st, is it now? They moved up the trading deadline.
What's that?
But
no, it's
baseball.
End
15th?
of it's August. It's later now.
It was
right?
earlier. I thought it was earlier. I don't know. I thought it was earlier. Whenever it is.
Yep.
You get the ESPN special on the day beforehand, and which ESPN, all you got to know about baseball is ESPN is allegedly bailing on it.
Yep.
So
yes, when they killed the Baseball Tonight show,
Yes.
That was a huge red flag because it used to be a great show, great source for information.
I never missed it. You know?
Yep.
I mean, I maybe if I was at a Twins game or watching a Twins game, I missed it. But it was, it's hard to believe that. What do you think? Why did the ratings could have been terrible? They just must have thought it was too costly to produce or something.
I think their studies find people don't care enough. Or I should say young people.
Well, that's a young
people don't care.
That's the trouble. The audience was probably great among people my age.
And like me. I mean, in the 90s, that show was phenomenal, but this is the problem. Baseball has no hook.
No, it is. I don't know what you're going to do. You got to. People are smarter than me say there's no way they're going to take a full season lockout, but I think that's what they got to do. Then I don't know what. But does Manfred really want to lessen the appeal of the Dodgers and the Yankees, or is he? And
are they going to play nice? That's my question. Like if.
Yeah, but I mean, but you can still outvote them. You can say, hey, the Yankees and Dodgers can complain if you're shutting down the season, but they're not going to go play. So
no, but I'm saying if the ultimate goal is some form of like cap that accelerates, are the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox, or I don't the Cubs, I don't know whom, but are they going to can the owners even get a consensus of what they want?
They're gonna have to go to the NBA. And explain the aprons to us, right? And if you get to the second apron, which the Dodgers and the Yankees are, you can't do anything.
Yes.
Okay. You can't sign. You can't. You get no money for the international market. You get. You got to go to the aprons. That's what you got to do. Is to have the second apron. Just put them out of the, all the signing business, the whole thing. Of course, the agents will go nuts if that happens.
Yes, that's the problem. It's twofold. It's a consensus among the people that actually own the team, and then once you're done with that, it's the Players Association, which is still stronger than most. That's the great thing. Football can say, we have not agreed to an 18-game season and blah blah blah, and as soon as they say, you know what, we're going to it. They ain't going to strike.
Now, I got a question for you, though. With all these international games, now we're going to Australia and Vienna or wherever the hell.
Ireland next year for the Steelers.
Ireland next year. Is that how we're using the 17th game? Do we really have to go to the 18th game? I saw the new head of the Players Union says nobody
this
wants
is what
an
I'm
18th
saying.
game. Nobody wants an 18th game. But they can't just implement it, do they? They have to get the players to say yes, right?
They do, but the point is, if they threaten the players always collapse because they need the money.
Well, yeah, or they have to. They have to get. They have to get a higher guarantee of salaries or something.
They'll give them something.
You're never going to get. You're never going to get 100%, but any contract a guy gets, he gets 80% for sure or something. It's.
I knew that the National Football League Players Association was screwed when the league held an off-season lockout.
Yes.
And scared them.
They let him have an off-season.
They locked him out in March, and they literally only missed the OTAs and stuff, right? And the players freaked out and settled.
The only time they had any power is when the idiot owners started playing replacement ball in 82, right?
87.
87.
There was a lockout, or a strike, and then, yes.
And they should have let them keep playing replacement football because it was an embarrassment. It was like it was like the stuff they had going on in spring training baseball. You had you had 64-year-old Tony Adams playing quarterback for the Vikings, and you should have let him continue. That's the only time you had anything going, and you should have just told the league, keep doing this. See how long this lasts. But they caved on that one too.
And that was a great Vikings team too. And the replacement team was god awful.
Oh yeah, well that was the Viking team that ended up getting beaten Washington and
Yes. Fantastic Vikings
almost
team.
going to the title. Oh man, they had some defensive players on that club. Oof, oof, oof. That was I had fun talking to Chili the other day about doing a thing on Hall of Famers he had and Jared Allen and he told some funny Jared Allen stories. Considering when Jared came in, my punchline on the column was on Halloween. Jared came in wearing a wrestling for the team meeting, wearing a wrestling singlet, and didn't quite do its job in the swimsuit area of covering everything. So of course, if that would get out now, we'd be very offended, right? So.
Yeah. And what a great trade, though. That's one of the great trades the Vikings made.
Yes, yes. How about the one that still is amazing though is the Hutchinson thing? How they
the league went crazy.
He said the league went nuts. He said, Chili, I had in there that Holmgren called him up and said, as a friend, I just want to tell you, don't do this. The league is very upset on the Hutchinson trade. Good, but so I wonder how it was written that you had to match everything in the contract. Because Brzezinski put in there stuff like you have to play 8 games in Minneapolis for this contract.
Or it becomes so the verbiage, as I recall, was if you do not play 8 games in the state, the contract becomes fully guaranteed, which was 7 years, $49 million. Yes. And the Seahawks and Tagliabue went nuts, I guess.
Yeah. They were. He said the off-season meetings were a little cool towards the Vikings back then. They were all mad at him. The cheap SOBs, though. You got one of the great guards of all time, and you're trying to save a few bucks and not franchise him. You end up trying. They got rid of the transition thing after this, though, didn't they?
I think it might still be around. It's just not used. Oh yes, yeah. You can't now put in the thing about. And if I'm correct on this, didn't the Seahawks then like the next year sign Nate Burleson to a contract?
Which the Vikings ended up getting a 3rd-round draft choice. And they were fine with it.
I was going to say there was no the retribution by then was not exactly equal on Nate Burleson.
I couldn't get into that because from lengthwise, but Chili was talking about that, and he said, "Oh, okay," because he called me up and said, he said that Holmgren called him up. He says, "I just want you to know we're signing Nate Burleson. Kind of like this is our revenge." And he said, "Well, I think we already we already got him signed to a second." We already got him committed to like a second year, second round contract. So I think you're going to have to give us a 1st rounder for it, Mike. Because he hung up, and they ended up taking a 3rd rounder for him. But yeah, their revenge was Nate Burleson. Now a media superstar is in the entertainment industry, but not exactly a fair swap for the Seahawks. Hutchinson for Burleson didn't quite work out. So.
No. And I think Holmgren, the story was, so he was like in Europe too when Hutchinson signed here. And Hutch said there was a long period of Mike wouldn't talk to him, basically. He was so upset.
Yeah. What a player he was, though. Man alive.
Oh, Hutch? Yeah.
Yeah. What? Spring training starts this week. You excited? You fired up?
Cubs reported yesterday. I saw Craig Counsell going in.
Cubs getting there. They after their disappointing finish with their new manager, they had to start early this year, huh?
That or they're gonna are they going overseas to play? There might have been a report date because of that.
Yeah, that's right. We're opening the season in Taiwan or
still Japan. One of the stupidest things of all time. What are you doing? Nobody cares.
No, you open it at midnight on March 22nd and 23rd.
What are we doing?
Selling T-shirts, I guess. I don't know what.
But you can go there during the season. That's my thing.
Yeah. Get on an airplane and have them take 4 days off or something. Got everybody in the world, except the NFL, I guess, should reduce their schedules anyway. Baseball. Let's. We don't have to have the World Series in November. Go to 154. All you got to do is get rid of 8 games, for goodness sake.
And you've expanded your playoffs. That's the thing too. That's the trade-off.
That's the hard. Yeah, that's the idiotic part of it. It's the grand old game, which I loved and now like, but it's declining. The switching, the sitting down and watching 9 innings is a very rare event for me now if I'm at home, if I'm not at the ballpark. I still like going to the ballpark, but
yeah, well, absolutely. So what's your honest opinion right now on the Twins?
I think they're 500 if they're lucky. I don't like them that well. I think Correa's going to have a bad attitude. I know we had the traditional Bucks never felt this good story. Buck's getting to be 30, 31 now.
He's 31 now.
Yeah, even if he's fully healthy, he's not what he would have been if he was 28 and healthy. And I don't know. It's I'm ready to be amused by whoever ends up playing first base. Julian or Miranda, that could be something. Now, because they're selling, though, have they been allowed to add a few dollars to the thing?
That's what it looks like. What was it, $7.5 million last week that they went up on?
Yeah, this is quite the time in Minnesota sports, though. I mean, we had the Wilfs 20 years ago. The Wilfs bought the team, and you were never going to have to worry about the future of the Vikings in this town, even though Mike Lynn went out to L.A. once to try to get us to have a new stadium. But it's quite a time in Minnesota sports, though. You're going to have a very good chance, but that by today you're going to have out-of-town owners of the Timberwolves, and instead of a Minnesota guy, and there's 100% chance you're going to have out-of-town owners of the Twins. And Calvin, was 1960, and he was from out of town, but Calvin was moved out on the lake right away and became a Minnesota guy. So you've basically had 60-some years of local ownership with the Twins, and that's going to change. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
This time that
yep.
This great loyalty to. I'm not worried about the future of the Twins. There's no market to go to that's better than this one for Major League Baseball. So,
and don't forget now too. Yep. Hey Pat.
How about it?
So
yeah.
So in addition to the Wolves, who are almost certainly going to at some point soon try and get a new building, you also have the Wild, who are trying to get major improvements as well. So like we're back in the arena remodeling / new building. So that's another thing.
And here's the other problem. The Republican, this is the free spending Democrats have lost power over there, and they're probably going to get their arse kicked in the next election, because Walz's popularity has plummeted, and the Republicans. Well, you're dealing with the Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce, not Chamber of City Council, which is insane, and then you're dealing with the financially conservative Republicans over there. Whereas I don't know if anybody's going to get any money. Do you?
No.
I think that you're not going to get somebody to. But if you're going to get a new basketball arena, whether it's Glenn Taylor or the new guys, you're going to have to start with $700 million in your own money, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, $700 million in your own money. And let's face it, if Glenn gets it, well, he's got it. And if Glenn keeps the team, and if he doesn't get it, These other guys are getting it so cheap, they should throw in $700 million for a new arena.
And they claim they're going to, but I got to see it to believe it too.
Yeah, right. Usually it's, and the other thing is the Hennepin County thing. That tax hasn't been renewed yet, and it has to be renewed by the legislature for some reason. And this is a new legislature that is probably anti-Minneapolis, right? Because it's the House is now being run by the GOP, at least temporarily. So it's going to be hard to get much financial help. And of course, my proposal to get a new basketball arena and get rid of Williams Arena probably isn't going anywhere anyway. So, but I still think it's, as we said, the Gophers basketball, a very strong contender to be the worst job in the Big Ten. I'm not saying it's the worst job in the Big Ten, but it's one of the 3 worst in the Big Ten. And if you want to, and when we talk about making the tournament now, it's the Big Ten tournament. Can we make the top 15? That's what we talk about.
That's why I'm a Tommy's fan now. I've jumped on the St. Thomas because a year from now, I think there's a fighting chance they're in the tournament, and I'm not talking their conference tournament.
And they're going to have a nice little 5,500 seat arena, despite all the signs the neighbors have out there. And that place will be hopping, and and they'll be parking in front of your house over there, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
The Tommies, 1,500 ESPN, baby.
That's right. Go
1,500. Hey, before you go, sell me a car. Where should I go to get a car?
I would love to sell you a car. This is probably a good time to sell you a car right now. 2024 there's still some stock of those, and of course the new ones, the 2025s, are in. Jim Paul and Brett Paul's Valley Group of GM dealers, Apple Valley and Hastings, all varieties of SUVs. The Buick SUVs are coming all shapes and sizes and are very popular with the public right now. Very popular with that kid that's about to graduate from high school. It would like to have himself a nice little, or him or her, that nice little small SUV when they drive off to college. Right now we have low interest rates, some of them 0, 0.9, 1.9, and good factory rebates going on right now too for the Buick SUVs. The Sierra GM trucks, which are very popular now, they have a great stock of those too. At the Valley Group of GM dealers. Check out the inventory on the website. Apple Valley and Hastings. I've been dealing with them for 12, 15 years and have always been satisfied.
Outstanding, sir. Talk to you soon.
All right, Judd. See you.
See ya.